Doctor, there is also the issue of sexual abuse in this field, that where as a child it can be different. The understanding of a child, as you said, nowadays in schools there is a great amount of teaching of what is the right touch, what is good touch, what is bad touch, which is fantastic that is happening in society and long due and long overdue. However, I'm sure this does not reach into every part of the country or the world. Child sexual abuse is a known fact across the world today, unfortunately. So, how would you address these issues? So, how would one approach the child, approach the parent? Because in this also, there is a lot of unfortunately blame on the child, on the parents, and a lot of secrecy and a lot of covering up, wherein if the abuser is part of the family member or is a family friend, and it becomes very difficult in addressing the issue. Doctor, could you please elaborate on this? Because this affects the child's growth
Oh, yes.
psychologically, you mentioned.
Yes, for sure. The point is, yes, uh, how would I put it? Socially, the sexual abuse is known at all levels. It is not necessarily only the child abuse, we will talk about that. But sexuality and sex are two different issues. The point is that what is normal, natural, beautiful relationship results and what is fearful, involuntary, kind of abuse which will come, there are two different phenomena. We can talk subsequently sometimes, but for the child, any involuntary, forceful kind of phenomena or something which he cannot understand is it will generate fear. Now, physiological response will also trigger off certain amount of psychological sense of gratification. It is both, and this happens in everyone. The point is that results into confusional state. Should I or should I not? The fear is, should I tell my parents or not? Threat from the sexual abuser is also there. Now, most of the time, if you realize, this abuse is a result when parents are not there, parents are non-available, or somebody whom they trust is given responsibility to take care of the child. That person turns out to be a threat. So it is not only the physical component which is painful, the emotional pain experienced by the child, and the social pain which is perceived later by the child, all of them are important. The pain experienced by the parents that the child is suffering is one. Two, the socially, how can I tell somebody who is so close to me, he is elderly gentleman and he is very nice person. So the question of trust comes, and it's a communication and trust go hand in hand between the children and parents. It is not uncommon. It is. I agree with you that there is lot many patients who become mentally extremely anxious and to the level of having breakdowns with the history of being abused in the childhood. Now, whether it is a male child or a female child, abuse will result into pain. The pain has to be experienced and channelized in his own or her own mind, and different types of defense mechanisms are being used. So it is known. But what about social perceptions? Well, legally it's a crime. It is. My point is it's a crime. All right, let me take a drift on that. Whether it is in adult relationship, of course, child they don't know what is happening to them, so therefore confusion is normal. All right. One side of the child is finding curiosity, another child is learning. So it's a conflict between, the id and the superego issues. Well, we are going drifting. The point is in adult relationship. Do you think that rape, it's amounting to sexual abuse?
Yes.
Commonly, people are inhibited in using the language, slangs. And most of the time, people say fuck. Now, fuck is a very interesting word because it was, the history goes back into the World War II, where the definition, it was a forceful, unlawful carnal knowledge. The other very prevalent was that fornication with consent of king. Now, if you notice that, both of them are abuse and both of them are not within the legal framework but for that time. Now you notice that. Do you mean to say that it doesn't exist? It does. It's a part of social evil that we are facing, if we are going to call it evil. But I'm not looking at that aspect. I'm looking at the person who is suffering. His mind is disturbed, his thoughts process, his emotions, his inability and weakness of that communication, of that threat perception to somebody he trusts. Most of the time, people make that mistakes. Parents, especially, that they don't trust the child, and which I feel very, very unfortunate for the child. It does cause long-term problems.
As you put it, that if the child is sexually abused or molested in childhood, that child needs help. Otherwise, that child which does not receive help, the right kind of help, not just the child, I would say even the parents
Yeah.
require help. So equally. So in children, especially who do not receive help, they grow up and these emotions are suppressed and even repressed in them. And they subconsciously choose partners which are likewise abusive, unfortunately. And life kind of, the pattern repeats itself.